Oh, oh no, it was okay. So I will start showing introducing you to natural self-organized swarms. So I think every one of you has seen at some point in their life so ant colonies, so ant collecting food or bird flocks flying around doing so spectacular figures in the air, or fish swarms. I think they are called schooling, if I'm not wrong. Also doing very nice figures in the water. So all this kind of phenomena that is called, well, this swarm behavior, or it's a collective behavior, is something that is observable in nature. And so this, especially, I will focus on the ants, which is a species, an animal species that I have been fascinated since my childhood, because these little tiny animals, although they are very tiny and their brain is compared to our brain, so they have only 250,000 neurons more or less, compared to the 80,000 millions that we have, we will say, well, they are not so smart, or we could say we are around 300,000 times smarter than them. But actually, I have my doubts about it. So if you see what ants can do when they are together, they can do a lot of smart things. And so let me show you. Well, in this slide, what you see on the left-hand side is a real ant colony, so biological ant colony, with some ants foraging some leaves and bringing them back to the nest. And on the right-hand side, you see some simulated ants in a two-dimensional environment, collecting also some leaves, so the green stuff, and bringing it to the nest, which is in the middle. And this white thing, white blue thing that you see around is pheromone. So it's the signaling that they are using to communicate, to coordinate their activities. So we can have a look. So this is a short video showing what they can do. So ants are known because, well, although they are very strong, they can also organize and form clusters, groups themselves, and collect objects or food that can be tens, sometimes hundreds of times more heavy than their own weight. And the way how they organize it and they do it is remarkable, because there is not like a top-down organization. So there is not like a leader saying you have to do this or that, but it's more like it's a self-organized behavior that emerged through the coordination, through the exchange of information, exchange of signaling, chemical signaling that they are doing. So, and this what I'm going to show you here is simulation of ant colony. So doing something similar to the previous video, but in a computer simulation. So what you will see is that in the middle you see a nest, and you see the ants moving around collecting food. So these patches around, these clusters around are food, and they are moving. You see that this green light stuff that they are using there represents the pheromone, or the signal, the chemical signals that they use to coordinate and to communicate. For some reason, the video is flickering a little bit, so it's well, so I speed it up a little. And you see that they managed to collect the food. And the thing is that they don't, in the same way as the biological counterpart, they don't have a top-down design. There is not a leader, but the organization happens automatically, or emerge from the interaction of the every single ant. Now, regarding this simulation, so how this works, there are a few tricks or ways to reproduce the behavior observed in nature. One of the first approaches that was taken to model the ant behavior or ant foraging behavior was to define a set of rules. So each ant will follow a set of rules, let's say like an algorithm, according to what the ant is perceiving, and in reply to this, to the inputs of the environment, the ant will follow certain rules, allowing them to achieve the behavior that you observe. So that from a limited and simple set of rules, we could achieve more complex emergent behavior. So it has some disadvantages. Is that one of them is that you have to think a priori some of the rules that you have to define the rules for the system to work.
Yeah, can I interrupt? I'm just
yes, of course.
So you say this is like kind of a self-regulated, self-organized coordination. But
yes,
what's the role of the queen? Usually there's the queen, right? And the queen ant.
Okay.
And then it's highly centralized system, as I understand, as opposed to.
Yeah, but the queen, although it's called the queen, she is not like she's not dictating the rules in the swarm. She's laying the eggs. So basically, she keeps the it's not mandating the behavior of every single worker or unit in the swarm. So instead, the behavior, so the foraging behavior, even the fighting behavior, is emergent. So there is not a leader, there is not like a general ant saying you have to attack this or that, but they use chemical signaling, so pheromones, to mark, for example, enemies, to mark dangerous areas, or to mark interesting areas where there might be food. And they use all this chemical signaling to recruit other ants, or even to repel some ants from dangerous or uninteresting areas. So the queen doesn't play like the role of the dictating role of managing the swarm, but it's more, her role is to, depends also on the species, because it might be, the roles may change a bit, but in general it's more about laying the eggs and keeping the swarm alive. But yeah, the activity of the ants is an emergent phenomenon. Oh, this one. Now, well, this is one of the ways to achieve these kind of interactions and emergent behavior based on an algorithmically or rule-based system. There are also some probabilistic models where you can define the rules of the behavior for the system to achieve certain resulting or emergent behavior. But again, it has a design problem, a design issue, is that you have to think a priori what are the rules in order to achieve the certain goal. So the thing is that you may, if the objective or the goal of the system becomes more complex, it might be very difficult to find the kind of interactions, the set of interactions between agents to solve a certain task. Or even if you find a solution or a set of rules for the swarm to do something, it might not be the most efficient solution. So one thing, or one of the ways to achieve a better approach, is to allow in each ant or each agent in the swarm to have its own kind of brain. So of course, we are not talking here about a physical brain, because as I mentioned before, an ant has a brain with around 250,000 neurons and a few million synapses or connections in the brain, so which is quite complex already. But we could use something similar to a brain using a neural network. So, and in this case, the neural network doesn't need to have 250,000 neurons, but we could have maybe a few hundreds or thousands, or maybe less. And the idea is to give each agent or each ant the ability to have its own little controller or brain that will steer the behavior of the agent. So, but before going further, I want to introduce you to the concept of spiking neural network. What is a spiking neural network, or what is a spiking neuron? So we have biological neurons, which I think everyone heard about it. So the neurons that we have in our brains, that animals have in their brains, and these are the nerve cells that are interconnected and are allowing us to move, to see, to perceive the world, and to interact with it. And these biological neurons communicate with each other through electrochemical signals. So they send pulses, electrical pulses. And so a biological neuron under the microscope will look like something like this. So we have millions of neurons, depending on the brain, but in case of humans, it's billions. And each neuron is connected to thousands, to 10, 12,000 other neurons. So it's quite a complex, very complex network. We have also the artificial neural networks, like the one that is used by self-driving cars, by face recognition systems, by ChatGPT, and large language models that use some abstractions or mathematical models that kind of abstract the dynamics of, or are inspired in the dynamics of biological neuron, but is an abstraction that simplifies what is going on in a real biological neuron. And an artificial neural network looks like this. So these artificial neural networks produce at outputs numerical values. So they form also networks. They are connected to other neurons, and these connections, or when they transmit the information, they transmit numerical values. For example, this one here. Now there is another type of artificial neural network, which are called spiking neurons, that get closer to the biological counterparts by simulating the electrical activity, so the electrical dynamics of the neuron. So the spiking neurons are mathematical models based on differential equations that can be also modeled as electrical circuits, and they show a lot of similarities with biological neurons in the sense that they are able to receive electrical pulses and output also electrical pulses. So as you see, if you see, the outputs are similar, what we call spikes or action potentials. And that makes spiking neurons very interesting in artificial intelligence, in robotics, because we can also leverage some of the properties that biological neurons have. For example, the plasticity, which is the ability of the brain to wire itself. So the learning mechanism that we observe in biology can be better simulated using spiking neurons. And also these dynamical electrical properties allow the spiking neurons to capture information over time in a way that artificial neurons usually don't have. So they need a combination of neurons or some kind of connectivity to reach the same behavior. So this is a crash explanation of what the spiking neurons are. So in general, or in summary, a spiking neuron is an artificial neural network that resembles closely a biological neuron. And this is the type of neuron that we want to use in our simulations. So the spiking neurons are also, because they resemble the brain, they resemble nerve cells closely to the biological ones, they are used in brain simulations. And for example, this image is a thalamocortical network with 16.7 million neurons interconnected, and it is showing the activity of this large network. And as I mentioned before, the dynamics of the learning dynamics of what is called plasticity can be also simulated, and for neuroscientists, spiking neurons are also very interesting. And in neurorobotics, which is my case, and this is what I'm going to show you, is extremely interested because it allows us to use some brain dynamics to bring it to the machines, to the AI. So then I will explain you a bit more about the little brain, or let's say the controller for the ant, so for this ant swarm. So basically each single virtual ant will have this network. This is a spiking neural network, and the network has different inputs, so sensory inputs. So the ant is able to perceive, to sense the pheromone concentrations around it, is able to sniff the scent of the nest, and to sense when the queen is close. So basically it is in the nest, and it has some a reward receptor and a pain receptor. Let's say when it crashes or collides against a wall, or it does something that hurts the ant. And it has a little visual system to see red color and green color. And it can do a few actions. It can rotate left, it can rotate right, move forward, or deposit pheromone in the environment. So now this network, this is the allocation of the input to the network, and this is the allocation of the outputs to the network. But the connectivity between neurons is not fixed, is not set. This is something that is going to be achieved through an evolutionary algorithm. So the idea is to use a simulated evolution to give each ant in the swarm a little controller, so a clone of the brain that we are going to simulate. All the agents, or each ant, will have a copy of the same network.
Cristian, so here the network itself is playing both storage and the memory and CPU together, right?
Yes.
It's the same device in one.
Yeah, the network is the memory, and at the same time is the controller. Yeah.
And do you have an action for grabbing, for taking?
In this case, it's abstracted. So it is assumed that if the ant touches the food patch, it grabs it.
Okay.
So it could be added as well, but for this research, the abstraction level was good enough. If we could have the ant on top of the food, that means grabbing. Exactly. Okay, well, we don't need to understand it in detail, but basically what the genetic algorithm is doing is bringing the optimization, or bringing the network to an optimum, in which the optimum state is that the most amount of food that the swarm is able to collect, the best is going to be scored. So basically, a genetic algorithm works by simulating something, so simulating a process. This process is evaluated, and after the evaluation, it gives back a score. So you have a population of solutions. Each solution will be simulated, will give you a score, and the best, the individuals or the solutions that provided better scores will be picked up for the next generations, and it is an iterative process. There are also involved some evolutionary aspects from Darwinian evolution, like crossover, mutations, natural selection, that simulate the process of bringing the fittest individuals or the process, the solutions with best scores to the next generations. So in this iterative process, we come up to a solution, so to a set of individuals or solutions that are closer to the goal. So, and this goal is usually a mathematical model. So this mathematical model is telling us, okay, in this case, the score, the more food that the swarm can collect, the higher is going to be the score. Basically, this is summarizing what it's doing. There are also other variables, but in general, is the main score of the swarm is the more food a swarm manage to collect, the better it's going to be scored. And yeah, so the next step is, well, this is how it works in the optimization algorithm. So we use for the optimization, we use a framework which is called the learning to learn framework, and it has some components. So we have the optimizer, which is the genetic algorithm optimization. This is the one that is calculated. Is calculated or processing which individuals are going to go to the next generation, is performing the crossover mutation. And then we have the optimizee, which is the individuals itself or the process itself that are executed during the simulation. So it's basically, it starts in generation 1. On the first generation, we have a population, let's say 100 individuals or 100 solutions or 100 networks. And each network is going to be, at the beginning, is randomly initialized. And then at the end of the simulation of the first generation, we will have some scores. So we will have the scores of each individual, and the best ones will go to the next generation. They will recombine.
Sorry, you can finish it. So each agent's objective, right? So suppose we have like a multitude right? So suppose we're doing this. Okay?
Yes.
Each agent's objective is in line with the collective objective in your algorithm. So by doing what I am best interested, I can follow my best interest.
Yeah.
Am I also maximizing everybody else's collective objective? That's what I mean. In your system.
Well, so we have the depends. So are you talking about the swarm itself, or the
In your system, in your that network, right? So
Yes.
each is computer generated
Yes.
agent, right? I am following my objective function, right? I know what
Yes.
I want to maximize, what I want to maximize.
Yeah.
By following that, am I also pursuing the group objective? In other words, it's my personal objective is in line with summation of all our objective, so that I am doing best for myself is also same as doing for me and everybody else's.
For the collective.
Yeah.
Well, let's say, so in the genetic algorithm, you have a population of solutions. So, and each solution or individuals, let's call them individuals. So these individuals is going to be a simulation that produces a score based on their performance. So at the end of the simulation of the first iteration or generation, so in order to go to the next generation, so the evolutionary process will pick up according to the scores that each individual obtain, will pick up the next individuals that will well, they mate together. So they take, for example, individual 1 with individual 10 will cross, so they are parents to the next generation. So but the process that decides which individuals are going to mate and bring children to the next generation depends on the score that they obtain. And so it's a collective process, because it's merging the individuals of a population, but at the same time, each individual is fighting for their own.
So some kind of collective mechanism is hardwired. right? But that's already embedded. It's not like a collective things like somehow you're not surprised by collective behavior. It's hardwired already.
Yes. If now that the presentation is interrupted enough, so maybe I can. So the SNN part is at the end level. You look at the end.
Yes.
I have questions about that, but maybe I should wait until the end. The genetic algorithm works at the system level. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And the genetic algorithm, or all of the other algorithms that I had a chance to learn in the past, they are really optimization algorithms, which means, I mean, you are trying to maximize something, but at the same time, you are losing something, right? So that's why it's an optimization. Where is, and since we are on that slide, let me ask you, so where is the, let's say, the punishment part there? I mean, benefit, I mean, what is the benefit and what is the punishment? So I'm asking this because we have the same problem. I mean, in marketing research, we don't use simulations a lot because the punishment side is hard to quantify. I mean, what you get is, spend more on advertising, more, but I mean, subject to what? What is it that you are sacrificing from kind of thing? So here, so what is what are you maximizing, and at the same time, what is the cost?
Okay,
for the system?
That's a good question, but to answer this question, I will have to go to the equation of the fitness function. So this is called the fitness function, which is like the mathematical model that is directing the evolution of the model. So in this case, there is a cost. For example, each action that the ant is doing, like moving forward, depositing pheromone, rotating, as an energy cost. So this cost is taken into account in the formula, in the fitness function, because the idea is to evolve or to have at the end a swarm where the ants are very let's say they save energy, so they are just not moving around randomly, but they try to move as directed and as efficient as possible. And at the same time, so this will be let's say the punishment part, or the penalization, the cost part. So every action they do has a cost and is decreased by in the score of the swarm. So, and the more they move, the more the pheromone they use has a cost. So an ideal swarm, which is very efficient, is one where the ants explore the environment using as small as possible the amount of energy, and once they find for example, a patch of food, they should be able to return to their nest also as soon as possible. The more they move, the more they lower the score. So it's not only about go out, find food and return, but do it well. So you have to do it the best. So each individual they are in a competition. So and because and that's how the evolutionary or genetic algorithms simulate natural selection. So they take the best solutions, and the best solutions, or the one with higher scores, have a high probability to reproduce in the next generation. And at the end, after thousands of generations, you end up with a model that is doing what you expected. There are also some flaws. There are also some drawbacks. For example, the genetic algorithm may tend to fall in a local solution, and then from there, that solution or that trajectory is going to be potentiated, and you end up with a solution that looks good, but it's not necessarily the best.
That's why you throw in like those mutations, right?
Yes.
In a way, avoid.
But even with mutations, it might not be enough.
Yeah.
So there are other models more sophisticated than standard genetic algorithm that avoid or try to overcome these issues. For example, modeling the population not as a single big population, but in islands. So it's like you have several islands and there are migrations. It's a bit more complex, but it's more interesting because you don't fall in this kind of local solutions. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, well, basically, this is how the optimization process is structured. So we have several simulators interacting. Well, in this case, we have a spiking neural network simulator, which is called NEST. And the agents, so the ant colony is simulated in an agent system, multi-agent system called NetLogo. And these two simulators are connected inside of the simulation to create the environment where the ants are moving, to connect the brains of each ant. So it's a lot of technical stuff happening in that part. Well, this is more or less the same thing, but showing it from the top to the bottom. So we have the optimization algorithm, the genetic optimizer, launching different networks or different swarms or solutions, and simulating them and returning the optimization. So one thing to mention is what the genetic algorithm is optimizing are the weights of the connections, the weight of the connectivity of the network, because between synapses or between neurons, there are the synapses or connections, and these connections have values, have weights, and these weights are what the genetic algorithm is optimizing. So it's like the genome of the genetic algorithm. And the weights and the delays. Well, this is something that is also related to the transmission between neurons. So there is a speed in the spiking neural networks, the speed at which one neuron communicates with the other, so at which electrical pulse is sent to another neuron, can be also modeled. So there is a certain delay, and this delay, let's say, playing or changing these delays may allow also some possibilities for information processing. So we use weights and synaptic delays or connection delays.
Which are predetermined. These are results. These are predetermined, right?
The weights are initially random, and then the optimization algorithm finds it. Exactly. So we don't set any weights or delays in a fixed way. So the optimization algorithm finds it on its own. And then, well, this is how it looks after the optimization. So we have here a swarm and a colony, an ant colony, and this is this showing the brain of one of the ants. So we have 15 ants in total. So we will have 15 of these networks going on, but we cannot show them all of them, otherwise it will be a bit messy. But it looks after the optimization, it looks like this. We'll show you. So you see that they spread in different directions. They start depositing pheromones, so the white blue color that you see around, and they go towards the green patches that represent the food sources. So they go there and they use the pheromone. So through the evolutionary algorithm or optimization, they managed to give a sense to this pheromone communication, because it was not hard-coded. So that the interesting thing is that we observed that the use of a signal or through the environment, which is called in biology as a stigmergy, so it's using chemical signals to communicate, is also exploited or is discovered by the optimization algorithm. So it makes sense of the signaling that the artificial ants are depositing. But it's not always the case. So we observe also some of the solutions that in different experiments, in some solutions, the pheromone was not used at all. But the performance of the swarm was also not as good as this one. And in other cases, for example, the pheromone had, instead of having an attraction effect, it was more repelling, so indicating the ants not to go there. So it's interesting because each is in the evolutionary optimization, there might be different trajectories and different solutions, and it's really hard to predict what is going to be the best one.
When do they drop the pheromone?
In this,
at regular intervals or when they find the food? Because when I look at this simulation, I see that when the ants drop pheromone regularly,
yeah.
whether or not there's a food. Right?
Indeed, we were analyzing the input output because it's difficult to say at this point what is the causality, but it seems to be so the ants have a range of vision of a certain distance, so like a 5 or 6 patches. One patch is this, for example. So it can an ant can look like from here to here. So and what we observe is that when it sees a food patch, a green color at the distance, it throws pheromone or seeds. And also when it sees sometimes when it sees the red walls for some reason. So there are a combination of input sensory information that stimulates the ant to throw the pheromone. So the next one. So this is, we were looking at the different generations, and so the pheromone concentrations, what kind of patterns were observed. And in generation 10, for example, pheromone was used, but not too much. So these are the food patches, the white things, the dots are the ants. And you see the pheromone is depicted as this red, white color thing. So in generation 200, we started to see some kind of relationship between the food sources and the pheromone location. In generation 600, we saw that the ants were using a lot of pheromone, and but somehow in generation 1500, it looks much tidy. So like pheromone is just limited to the areas where food was found, and it starts to, at some point, the pheromones evaporates as well. So we also measure the performance comparing different models. So we have this is the rule-based system that I show at the beginning, which is using this algorithmically fixed rules. This is the spiking neural network model, and we try different experiments and we observe a similar performance between the models. Now we saw, well, this is interesting, what can we do? So how can we apply it? So we thought that maybe we can use this kind of network or optimization to do something interesting. And one idea was to use this network or ant colony foraging behavior for a firefighting task. So if you think about it, so in the food foraging, we have a nest in the middle. We have the ants looking for something, in this case for food. They find the food and they come back. So we thought, well, maybe a firefighting, it doesn't look very different to food foraging. So they have to, instead of looking for food, they have to look for fires to detect where fire is. And instead of collecting the fire, they have to tank water, go there, drop water, and come back and refill. So, and we did it this time with real, well, not real, simulated flying drones, quadcopter drones. We use a simulation environment where the physics of so gravity, friction, collisions is taken into account, and we simulated a physical quadcopter drone, and so the environment of the drones looks more or less like this. So we tested up to, I think, up to 1,000 square meters area. And what we have is we train the drones to go to the pool, refill, find fires, and go back as fast as they can do. So to keep the fires from appearing, because in the simulation we program it in a way that if the fire is not extinguished quickly, it will reproduce. So they have to be fast. Although the network of the drone increases in complexity, so this is now all the sensors that it has. It has a bit more neurons. It can do a little bit more actions, and we pack it inside of the idea is to pack it inside of each drone. And then, well, we use also some tools to do the evolutions. We use 1, 2, 3 different simulators, one for the spiking neural networks, one for the 3D world and for the physics environment, and one for the drone simulation. So it's more about the setup of and the tools that we use for it.
You kind of mentioned it, but I mean, so, the one characteristic of wildfire is special equipment, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, given that, because of drone identified wildfires, you go back, that's the water, and then identify that, okay, the fire is now just, right? And okay, just spread to somewhere else. How does it react at that point? How does drone would react at that point? So if the drone now knows that, I want to go to point A.
Yes.
Right? So now the fire spread to A to B, let's say.
Yeah.
How does drone react at that point?
It has to be determined by the optimization. So what we observe is that they spread. So they find kind of a strategy to spread around the world. And when they detect that there is some new fire happening, they arrange somehow. So we are still analyzing how the behavior works, because it's an optimized behavior. So what is really going on requires also an analysis, because the whole strategy is.
So it's not just the degree of, I mean, it's not just the location of the fire, but it's also the degree of the fire.
Yeah, exactly. And the strategy that they use to do it, how to spread it. And well, the idea is similar to the ant one. So we want to have a swarm of drones, flying drones with control with a network, each one. And for this, we use a supercomputer. So this is the supercomputer unit that we use, the Yusuf cluster. And this is just some information that you can manipulate it. And this is how the environment of the drones will look like. So we have like the pool here in the middle, is represented by green, and the fires are represented in red. And the bigger the fires, the bigger the red square. So let me show you how it looks more or less at the beginning. This is one of the first experiments, and you can see the drones moving around. So on the right-hand side, you see this little square is showing the location of the fires and how the fires are spreading, and you see that they are decreasing. So the drones are going on top of them and are trying to extinguish them. And so they find the fires, return to the base, and go back. So another interesting thing of this optimization or evolutionary approach is that the drones learn also to avoid collisions. So collision is not even programmed. So the whole optimization is achieving exploration. So finding the fire, collision avoidance, and returning to the base and continue doing the same. And so, it was quite a process to get there. So the training or the optimization of the drones was done also iteratively to teach the drones different behaviors. So this is, for example, this is how it looks like. So in the first 500 generations of the evolution, so when we run the simulation for 5,000 simulation steps, that will be equivalent to 40 seconds, to here 80 seconds, 2 minutes, and about 3 minutes. So you see that in the first 500 generations, the fires just spread. So this is the aerial view, and the fires start here, and at the end it's like almost everywhere. So they didn't manage to fight it very well. So after 1,500 generations, it looks much better. So in 5,000 simulation steps, it's only this little tiny. After 3 minutes, we see, okay, the fire is growing somehow. But this was very nice when we saw it after 3,000 generations, more or less, that even after so many steps, there was no fire. So they were just very quickly going around, and found a very, very good way to keep it under control. So fire detection. So let me show you this one. So this is how it looks like when they are fighting a fire. So this is the fire map. So showing a fire appears here. This is the heat map. So a fire emits some heat. So the drones have an infrared sensor that allows them to detect where the heat is coming. And the signaling map is showing the arrangement. So this is where the drones are flying. And they use an internal representation, a map representation, spreading a signal, a warning signal that attracts them to the point where the fires are happening. So this is where you see the activity of the drones happening in reality. So you see they see the fires and they start clustering, grouping around them very quickly. And you see that the fires disappear. The heat stays for some time, but then disappears again. And you see they move back. And so this is how the collision avoidance work. So the drones at the beginning of the simulation, they try to find out different altitudes. So because they are able to sense each other. So what they do is they arrange in different altitudes and then they start going around, exploring. So I will show you how it works. And it all is happening through the optimization. So there is no pre-programmed behavior here. You see there how they find different altitudes and then they start to spread. And at some point there will be a fire appearing and they will move towards the fire. So let me see. Yeah, there is this red patch is a fire, so they will start moving there. So here the action of dropping water is abstracted. So for us it's important to know that the drone finds the fire, place itself on top of the fire with certain distance, and it means it's fighting the fire. So the action of opening the machinery to drop water is not necessary at this point, but it's for us it's sufficient to know that the fire is already extinguished. So they got like 5 or 6 drones on top of it.
It is achievable in this case, task.
Yeah.
It's really achievable that the drones can bring water.
A big drone can do that.
Big how much?
Could be well, actually, these firefighting tasks are done with the helicopters, but these helicopters could be also automated, or depending on the size. But that should be doable. So, and I want to acknowledge Jessica Yu, who she did her master's, so under my supervision, and she did an excellent job implementing the simulations on the supercomputer and also co-designing the fitness function of the optimization. And yeah, so in summary, what I wanted to show with this work is that genetic algorithms can be used successfully to evolve, to optimize spiky neural network to control agents and robots and to achieve complex behavior. And so we see that also through the usage of a simulated pheromone signaling, we can achieve self-organization also through the evolutionary optimization using spiky neural networks. And yeah, so basically, this is to show, it's a proof of concept that to show that spiky neural networks can be used for this kind of applications, so real world application. Any questions? So
it's one really tedious question. So when this drone flies, and I totally agree that they first coordinate around the different altitudes so they can fly around without constraint.
yes.
So do they coordinate them first before they even like move horizontally, or they
Yeah, they are,
they first do that and then
and they move. And if they sense that there is that another drone is approaching, they change altitude. They have a criteria. One may go up, the other one may go down.
so there was my question. So do they before they move an inch horizontally, they first coordinate altitude, then they don't have to worry about it, right? Because I mean, all different altitude, right? Can drones. They can just
Yeah.
move anywhere.
But they don't communicate, they don't coordinate in a way that they say, okay, I will move up and you move down. They just sense each other and they decide what to do. And this process is also handled by the optimization. Any question also, I don't know, from
Now what are you to do here? What is the continuation of this, what you are doing?
Yes, of course, thank you for reminding me. Yes, exactly, this is not the end. Well,
before you go on, maybe I've got this question about, did you inquire within your spiking neural network if there were some structures like clusters of neurons or something like that?
We haven't done it, but yeah, definitely it's something that has to be explored. If there are some kind of clustering inside of the network, because the network in the middle layer is connected all to all, and that's with the purpose that the genetic algorithm decides how to conduct the topology. So we don't want to enforce a topology, but it has to discover it. How can we share again the screen, because we still have some slides, and I want to give a preview, a spoiler of what I'm doing. I'm going to do. Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much. Okay. So. Yeah. So you remember again that I explained about spiking neurons and artificial neural networks, and in this case, in the case of the ants and drones, I use spiking neurons. But actually, artificial neural networks have been so successful in many tasks, and I myself am so fascinated by ChatGPT and these large language models that are incredible, and all this computer vision that has been achieved through artificial neural networks, that my research now is going to include a combination of artificial neural network and spiking neural network. So how to connect both, to mesh both approaches and make the best of it. So artificial neural networks are good at inference, at detecting things, classifying patterns, and spiking neural networks, because they are closer to the brain. So in terms of dynamics of the neurons, and also in the learning dynamics. So the idea of combining both approaches is to leverage the best of artificial neural networks, so the inference part, with the plasticity, the brain plasticity that can be achieved through the spiking neural network. So it's to make networks that can learn, that can have lifelong or continuous learning, and at the same time show this enormous capacity of inference that we are seeing now in intelligent systems. And this is what it's going to be. So I'm
Cristian,
yes.
Do you feel that, and I'm not sure if you can answer, but do you feel that the spike neural network is more intuitive than artificial network?
Intuitive in which
No, I don't know, because I mean, intuitive meaning it kind of, you said more like human brain, right? I mean,
Yes.
you kind of feel that, yeah, that's something that I could, maybe it's more commonsensical. I'm not sure if it's the right word, but it's like intuitive.
Okay, well, I think that since they can reproduce some dynamics that are happening in the biology, and that has been abstracted in the artificial ones, I think there is a lot of potential can be discovered, and that can be used from a spiking neural network, and that can be integrated to AI. And the thing is that it's tricky to use spiking neural networks especially the training mechanism. So to make them learn is not as simple as, well, artificial neural networks are also not simple to train. There is also a lot of mathematics behind it, and a lot of smart minds have been working on it for years. But with the spiking neural networks, the training mechanism works in a different way because it's more local. So this.
Because you get the first. So
Yeah, exactly. So the local, the synaptic rules or plasticity rules are usually more between neuron to neuron. Although there are some population coding and the neuroscience is moving forward in this area, is still quite a challenge. But yeah, so my intuition is that spiking neural networks will extend the field of AI once we understand them better, and especially in robotics. So if we combine, for example, the classification, the ability to classify and recognize patterns with the ability of plasticity and continuous learning of spiking neural network, I think we can achieve a very, very interesting next step in AI. Well, thank you so much.
You said it right, the state of California is fund your research. Enormously, especially in the wildfire.
Okay, so we have some chat. If the developer of the train can foresee the emergent behavior. The developer of the train can foresee the emergent behavior. Is it predictable somehow? Yes, how? Imagine of the trainer. I want to ask if the developer of the trainer, okay, can foresee the emergent behaviors. Imagine that with an external control of a human in case of emergency situations. So do you mean for the drone use case? So or
humans.
Or for the ant colony, Martha? If it is for the drone use case, so if you want, I want to ask if the developer or the trainer can foresee the emergent behavior. So well, the emergent behavior or some of the actions or some of the behaviors that can emerge can be foreseen, but not all of them. And sometimes, even if we can foresee certain behaviors that can help to solve certain tasks, they don't necessarily need to be the most efficient way. That's why allowing optimization to find a solution is better. So this is otherwise we will always have a design issue. So we can foresee certain behavior of certain tasks or certain dynamics that will happen, like in the ant colony rule-based system, so that we use a limited set of rules, very basic. We know that the emerging collective behavior will happen, but this is a very small example. So if we have a large world with hundreds of variables, and it's difficult to predict what is going to happen. Or we may predict it, but we may not providing the best solution to a certain problem or task. Another question? So, yeah.
So a couple on Marco's question. So are you saying that always having this external human control would jeopardize the role of optimization? So you cannot have external human control and still this free flow of optimization that would lead to the most efficient outcome.
You may have a combination. You may have like a human feedback, and it will be helpful. But if you leave the optimization 100% to human design, then you will rely on the human design. So and of the system. So and the thing is that if if the system needs to escalate, needs to become more complex and interact with countless number of variables, then even trying to design it, it might be a limitation. So the best way would be to combine both, to have an optimized, organized mechanism that allows the system to learn and to improve itself, and at the same time have feedback. And I think this is something, if I'm not wrong, this is something that OpenAI is applying with ChatGPT. So they are the feedback from humans is being used to improve the system over time. So it has yeah. So they use human feedback to improve it, but in case of the artificial neural networks, they use mostly back propagation and other techniques, but still, so I think a combination between human and automated optimization is the best way to do it. Yeah. Yes. So yeah, any question from the Zoom side, from the other side?
From the other side of the world, yes. It was great. Thank you. Yeah, it was really great. We can continue discussing with the coffee. So the next lecture will be November, because we have bye.
Bye. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
We can't hear, so we can't stay connected, because it's about the next guest.